Diese Konferenz wird nun aufgezeichnet.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, that was German.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, Sally.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to
Hi,
see you. At least a bit of you.
yeah.
I wanted to introduce you in my life when I tried to make a life with Sally from France, but actually you're not really from France, but I really don't know where I could say you're from because I just know you as a traveler from all over the world.
Yes.
But yeah, with those talks, I want to speak a little bit about what people who are practicing yoga doing in their in the past 12 months actually, and how they spent their time and what did they helped maybe to practice or what obstacles they had and so on and so on. And if I ask you a question you don't like, you can just tell me skip or something, so I will not take it personally, and then we continue.
Cool. No worries.
Okay. So for those who don't know you, maybe you can say briefly, very briefly, something about you, like who are you?
Who am I? That's a good question. Okay, well, thank you first for inviting me to have a chat with you. It's super nice.
Yeah.
I'm Sally. So I grew up in Wales in the UK, but I was actually born in England, so already a conflict of interests. And I met you in India. So I spent the first sort of 30 years of my life doing what we might call a sort of conventional route.
Yeah.
I studied music at university.
Uh-huh.
Sort of musician, really music is the first love. And then I became more interested in yoga, had a yoga practice and decided to do a teacher training. And so now I'm living in France. I spent first lockdown in India, up in a tiny little village in the Himalayas, which is beautiful. And then since July, I've been in France because this is where my parents moved to. So my parents left the UK about 5 years ago and live permanently in
Okay.
France. I'm staying with them here now. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of yoga teacher, musician, artist, person of earth.
Okay. And I know you as a person who's has a very big smile always,
Ah, thank
has
you.
vibrating and like positivity and joy, and which you can talk very honestly and into depth, if this makes sense. So
Mm,
I really appreciate those talks we had and those time we spent.
cool. Nice. Yeah, I think it's important to be open. I think it helps us and others heal. So,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you, as someone who traveled the past years very much,
Hmm.
at least that's what I imagine.
Yes.
How do you feel to get locked in by someone else, like maybe government or whatever locks you in the virus?
It
What
was
does it do?
a big shock. Um, so yeah, I've been traveling since 2017, summer of 2017.
Mm,
Um, had only been in Europe for sort of a few months in that
yeah.
time. Um, And yeah, so as I said, the first lockdown, I was actually I stayed with a family in northern India, up in the Himalayas, and they were absolutely beautiful, but they themselves were quite isolated. So they weren't even in the village.
Yeah.
You could see the village like 8 kilometers away on the other side of the mountain, and you're like, okay, I'm alone.
So
Um,
this is basically like lockdown lifelong because it's so secluded.
yeah, yeah, and of course at the start as well, there was there was quite a lot of it sounds a bit dramatic. They feared a bit for my safety because there was a lot of thought that foreigners had brought COVID into India,
Ah, really? Mm.
which is fair enough. It had to travel somehow, didn't it? And
Yeah.
so there was quite a bit of animosity towards
Oh, okay.
foreigners. So
And
I
did you
really
experience
very
that,
lucky.
or was it just a fear?
It was a fear. I mean, there was hardly anyone around, and I had met a few. It's a place that I had been before, and I'd met a few of the neighbors before as well, so they knew me.
Okay.
But I couldn't sort of go any further on my own,
Yeah.
and my Hindi was very limited, and their English was pretty limited. So it became very difficult because lockdown meant like a lack of safety to me, and a lack of um, communication as well. So I very much lost um, sense of myself really because I didn't really have personality anymore because you can't even make a joke. You can't even
Yeah.
understand what's going on in conversation and just sort of chip in like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understood, okay, now it's time to eat. I understood to come in. I understood, let's go and, because they grow their own food. So I understood, let's go and
Mm.
dig.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, I can do the washing up. I can do key things, but I
Yeah.
was very much like in my own head, and um, there was no sense of this is going to be for 2 weeks or this is going to be for 2 months, and then you can communicate with other people again. It was very much this sort of open
Yeah, I can really
lonely.
feel with you because it was pretty similar to me when I came to Greece. I didn't know any of Greek language, so
Sure,
I went to the family's dinner and all
sure,
the happenings, and I couldn't make even a joke, as you say, and then you changed totally a character.
completely.
It's like,
Absolutely. I became a shell. Like,
mm,
yeah, like serious mental health issues because
oh
there
wow,
was there was no you can't see the wood for the trees because there was no end to this. And
yeah,
also on top of the language, it's a whole other culture and even more so up in the mountains, like we're used to Goa
mm.
when we're in India, which is
Different,
pretty pretty open.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
there were things like so where I was staying didn't have any running water, which is not a
mm.
problem. But we could get water like once a week, but you can't step over the hose that is running water because then it's no longer pure. You can't drink it. And it's just these little tiny things that you don't know, and then suddenly you get told off, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to do any. I don't want to do anything because I don't want to offend anyone. I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
allowed to. I don't want to. I'm in their home. They've taken me in.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah, first
How,
was very.
how
I
did
enjoyed
you?
it was
Sorry.
wonderful at the same time. It was a beautiful place to be. They were beautiful people, they really, really cared for me.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the sort of moment to moment was really difficult.
Hmm. And did you practice yoga at this time or meditation or something? Was it a part of your life still, or did you also got thrown out of that practice pattern?
Mm. Um, a committed practice was not there, yeah. I would do a little bit, but again, it sort of goes back to not wanting to. I think I'm very conscientious, and I didn't ever want to do the wrong thing at the wrong time, or
Hmm.
uh, or be late for breakfast, for example.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
would practice sometimes, but then I would worry that it was just so much in my head, that I would worry,
Okay.
they're gonna think I'm crazy or there's some, person on the roof and they had a beautiful they were in the mountains. It was stunning. So I
Yeah.
practiced a little bit, but I got in my head and I sort of stopped myself. I did do an online introduction to Buddhism, which was really useful. That was with Ashish. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that was great. Um,
That sounds
and
interesting. Yeah.
it gave me like a structure every morning, and they knew I was doing it, so they knew that I wasn't free until this time. So that was useful.
Okay. Yeah.
But otherwise, I felt a lot of the time um, I was waiting to be told what to do, really. Yeah.
Whew. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tough
But I think
introduction here.
yeah,
Mm,
I brought it on myself a lot,
yeah.
because just, as you say, I didn't just, right, well, I'm practicing now. I went too far on the conscientious
Yeah.
side.
But
Yeah.
there must have been something that kept you strong or brought you through the time. Was that a specific thing, or was it just you were flowing somehow through it and you're glad now you changed something?
Well, we had a routine, which
Mm.
was good. Like I knew what time meals were. I knew what I could go and help prepare with, and I knew that we were digging and planting and
Yeah.
eating food. So that was useful. And yeah, the meditation. So the introduction to Buddhism course included some meditation.
Okay.
Um, so that was a practice that I was starting every morning.
Yeah.
And even after the course finished, I was able to continue that practice.
Okay.
Um, and then it was those moments that you can just start to bring yourself into the presence,
Hmm.
like digging for vegetables. you know,
Mm. Yeah.
Looking up
Yeah.
the vegetables on here, I'm in the earth. I'm enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was less asana and more trying to be present
Yeah. Nice.
at what I'm doing. Mm.
And regarding the COVID, how does the Indian culture react on the whole COVID crisis? Could you sum
Well,
up it
I mean,
somehow?
I haven't been there since July. It seemed that things kind of got back to normal quite
Mm.
quite quickly. So when I left in July, that at the airport, like it was super strict, stricter than in France, honestly. Like I got to France and I was like, really? Are you sure I can go?
Okay.
I was shocked. But
Yeah.
it seems they got back to sort of normal life, not really, from what I saw, not even really wearing masks and stuff quite quickly. But I think now numbers are rising again, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So and then you got back to France, and
Yeah.
since July you're in France.
Yes.
How is life there? What do you do? How does your daily life look like?
Yeah, so that has been a shock as well. Um, because similarly, like I don't speak French.
Oh yeah, true,
So,
British. Mm.
and because my parents moved here 5 years ago, it's not my hometown. I don't know the area very well. I don't have friends here, and because there have been restrictions, things haven't been open. It's not very easy to meet people.
Mm.
So that again has been quite a struggle. But I'd say in the last 2 months there has been quite a big shift inside within me. Um, and that came from regular practice, but also
Oh,
regular teaching.
regular what? Teaching.
Yeah, so I started teaching pranayama every morning
Oh,
to just a small group
yeah.
of non-yogis have joined me now every morning for 5 weeks.
Nice.
So they're now no longer non-yogis.
True.
And yeah, I'm gonna open that up, but I think by committing to that regular practice,
Mm.
regular teaching, I've committed to my own practice,
Mm.
very much a practice what you preach type thing. And I
Yeah.
found that really helpful and also quite empowering, to see that I have skills and gifts and I have things to share, because I think I'd
Mm.
become a shell of I don't know what I'm allowed to do. I have nothing to offer or give. I can't even make a joke.
Yeah.
Everything. And,
It's,
I don't have friends here. I don't,
yeah,
what am
yeah.
I can't make plans. I can't work in France because I don't speak French. So
Mm,
suddenly actually having something to give and something to offer,
yeah.
that has been a really big turning point. Um, and has definitely improved my own practice and uh, studying before opening this up, these pranayama classes, and also doing more music.
Mm,
And
okay.
really been sitting with um, what is yoga to me, and my asana practice is not regular. I do some, but
Asana
it's
is a part, yeah. It's not the
yeah,
whole.
it's become more and more about presence. Actually, I think that's
Mm,
probably my key word, and actually um, being in the moment. And I've changed from, oh, but what if they're offended, or what if they think I'm crazy, or to
yeah.
what if I try this? What if I just try that? And it's so freeing um,
Oh,
to
wow.
to just change that story, to flip from the scary what ifs to the curiosity. Curious
Yeah.
what I'll just try it. Who cares if it doesn't go well? I'll just try. So
Is that also one part of your learning? Because it seems a bit like the past year almost was for you a year of miscommunication or of non-communication or of not knowing what the others tell you and like being not be able to express yourself through words, through communication. And
yeah.
now, yeah, now what is
Now
the
it's
learning? Why does it happen like you first in India, then in France? Is like really completely the whole time.
yeah, like the universe clearly wanted me to sit with myself and
Ah, yeah.
learn some lessons. And I think I really think it's it's been so hard, but I've come out such a stronger person.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
uh, much more confident again in myself,
Mm.
not waiting for instruction. I'm teaching
Mm.
because I want to teach. I'm playing music because I want to play music. Like I'm following, um, I suppose, intuition. But I've always sort of found it difficult to know what this intuition is because we have all of these like negative, critical thoughts. I'm like, well, is that my
Mm.
intuition telling me not to do something? Um, but I think really, if you do what feels right, but also like your first thought. Your first thought is often what you really want to do, like if you're hungry, you just eat. If you're thirsty, you just drink. So if I want to draw, then I should draw and not go, oh, but people will think it's bad. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
following those first thoughts has also been I wrote in my planner for the year, my like yearly planner, I wrote just do it. And I'm like, it's such a good slogan. It's so
Yeah,
good.
I think,
Like just do
yeah,
it.
I did that. Yes, I did that in my life too. It was like 2 or 3 years ago, and I said, I don't have any goals. I always made goals in my life. I want to achieve that. I want to go there. I want to whatever, make, create. And there was one year, almost a year, I said, I don't want to achieve anything. I don't want to reach anywhere. I don't want to have a goal and
Yeah.
just see what comes. And that was one of the most amazing. I mean, that was the year I went to the yoga school in India for the first time, and that was the year I made so big
Just do.
changes in my life.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's really important to honor that, but honor like, we're all unique. We've all got different things. Just because something works for one person doesn't work for someone else. And I'm not the best musician, but I love it. So I should do
Yeah,
it. It makes me happy and it makes
absolutely.
other people happy. So why
Yeah,
wouldn't I share that? Yeah.
but there is there is sometimes you are in a situation you cannot change so much, like you were somewhere in the mountains in India, and you could tell yourself all the stories like being in the present moment and doing what you like, but actually it's hardly possible.
It is,
It's
yeah. I think
yeah.
in hindsight, I have thought about this, and well, I've thought about I don't really have regrets in life, but one of them is leaving India when I did because I'd got myself to such a point of anxiety that there was like no other option. And I could have gone anywhere in India. I could have seen other friends, for example, but I didn't. I had to leave. I had to leave. I had to leave. It was quite an extreme reaction.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wondered whether if in hindsight, like it could have ever been any different. And I suppose, the answer is always no. Um, the answer is always no, isn't it? It is what
It
it
is.
was. Um, but yeah, I suppose maybe if I'd had a bit more of a practice, I would have been a bit more relaxed, and
Mm,
just go. And I felt everything made me quite anxious. I
mm.
was, yeah, worried.
But also, when I listen to you, I sum it up and hear like we humans need to communicate to feel connected and to feel good and to express ourselves. And
Definitely.
what actually we are going through at the moment, everybody, I will say from government side, they say reduce contacts because of the virus. Or
Yeah.
let's face it from the virus side, like if you have contact, you are in danger. So it's
Yeah.
really the opposite of what our nature
That's
is. And
That's a
I think that,
very interesting, yeah,
yeah, it makes it
absolutely.
so
Think of that
difficult.
that like subliminal message almost of, well, it's not,
Yeah,
it's there, as you say, like stop contact, but to sort of embody that, as you say, to like reduce contact in any means is
yeah,
it's deadly for us. It's deadly, yeah, that has again, one of the many lessons of this year has been I need people, I need
yeah,
community. Um, and I need to be somewhere where I can communicate.
yes.
um,
And
all of those things, yeah.
for me in life, it was always important to have, of course, this contact we just spoke about, but also to sometimes have a period of time where I go completely into myself and have no one around me, like being with me. And
Yes.
maybe it's about bringing those things together in a balance.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think,
I agree. I've often thought as well that I wonder whether I would have been happier um, not living with my parents for the last whatever it is, 7, 8,
yeah,
9 months. um, which is a really difficult thing as well, because obviously I am so, so grateful to be here. I have no pressure on having to make an income. For example,
mm,
I have contact with some people who speak English. Wow.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, but everything I do is not questions, but like, oh, I saw you were doing this, and sometimes you just don't want to talk about it. You just want to do the things you want to do, or I want to make tea at a certain time in the morning, or I want to
mm,
X, Y, and Z. I'm an adult. I haven't lived with my parents for 15 years, probably.
yeah, yeah. I know that feeling coming
It's
back. Yeah.
a thing, yeah. And so then I think, oh, maybe it would be better if I lived on my own. But then, grass is always greener, I think, and um I would be miserable for other reasons. And so, yeah, like I say, these last couple of weeks of practice and teaching has really helped me get off social media, which is just a huge waste of my time, but also a drain on my energy and
Yeah.
my mood. And I'm seeing all these things that I'm not allowed to do. And changed my focus to what I can do. I can, grow some vegetables here. I can practice in the morning. I can share some music. I can sit at my piano. I can draw. Like there is so much that I can do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. went off topic.
So yeah, you went through several personal crises, as it seems. You managed them. You're there with a smile. But how do we handle as a society this big crisis altogether? So do you have an idea like how we can go into the future in a better way? And do you have as a second question, maybe you have an idea of why this is happening?
Why this is happening? I have lots of thoughts on that. I'll come back to that one.
Cool.
What was the first question? It was about
Yeah, about what
how
should
to
we
move
do?
forward.
How do we get out of this? How do we continue?
Yeah.
How do we create a better world?
Well, I suppose the two questions actually kind of do go hand in hand. And I think there is this big disconnect from how we should be living um, with nature, not against nature or nature working for us. You know, we are all part of the same thing. Um, and this is becoming clearer and clearer, you know, like every little bit of the ecosystem that gets affected, we're more and more affected. And I think it comes down to greed, maybe, on in all senses of the word, that humanity stuck on attachments to possession, to status, to what I can get for me, as opposed to what I can do for the world. Which has led to, you know, all sorts of things that we've done to nature and climate crisis, and I think these things are all connected. Uh, Overfishing or the meat industry or those things, but also just this demand for the next biggest, the next best thing, constant demand, constant lack of satisfaction with our lives. Um, which again is where I was sort of caught up with the I'm not allowed to do that. You know, I've felt things were being taken away from me. I'm not allowed to go out. I'm not allowed to see my friends. I'm not allowed to talk. And instead of those things, focusing instead on what I can do has helped. And so, and it's what I can do for others as well. And I think for more and the availability of everything in the world for almost anyone. You know, you can get anything you want, really.
Anytime, yeah.
At any
Delivered
time.
to home.
Yeah, probably within 24 hours. And I think this is just not healthy
No.
for the planet. And we are the planet. We're part of this fragile ecostructure, and actually, you know, we're here to be guardians of this planet, and we're we're not helping. And we talk about sustainability, but sustainability is you know an excuse to carry on a little bit longer. um, so I mean, for me personally, I definitely advocate like being vegan and but also eating what's available here in France and not like trying to eat things that are not readily available here. Um, that, that that's a big like is like and not
Sorry, sometimes your connection is a little bit weak.
not
So
so good.
sometimes, yeah. Uh,
Am I?
if if you if you can come a little bit closer, is that possible? Sorry, there someone's
Yeah,
just coming. Maybe then the voice comes better too. I don't know.
it's better,
I hope so.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. for
No,
interrupting.
okay. So I was just saying that I think like veganism is like a lifestyle and not just, this
Mm.
diet, the diet of everything. It's just an awareness of the planet and that we live in as one. I feel like we've got ourselves into this mess because of greed, um, and that the way to move forwards is community, but
Yeah.
maybe in a smaller way.
Mm.
You said
Where you,
villages, tribes, that kind of thing. I don't
yeah,
suggest that we just go back to that, but there has to be this rebalance, I think.
yeah. What I somehow figured out is that as soon as you have no emotional connection to a person anymore, you are just less caring about them. If you have a personal connection and emotional connection, you care, and if you care, you don't do like things that harm or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think we should come back to a point where we emotionally can cope
Mm,
with the amount of people we are harming with our actions or not
yeah,
harming. If I buy something, a T-shirt from a person who tailored it in China, I don't see how worse the environment was during their
exactly.
work or something.
There's a
So
disconnect.
we lost connection to people, and somehow
Absolutely.
we have to fix that, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about like trying to be really conscious about every decision we make.
Yeah.
Because like you say, you could just buy a t-shirt and go, oh, it's only one, or it's the last time, or whatever. But
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single time we make those decisions,
Yeah.
knowing the consequences, we don't like to be confronted with the reality of our choices. We become quite defensive, like, and I was a meat eater for years and therefore consumer of lots of other, animal
Same.
products and the rest of it, and cheap labor and yeah, X, Y, and Z. And it's uncomfortable at first when someone questions your beliefs, questions your actions. You take it very personally. It becomes very, um, yeah, you take offense, like on a personal level. But the minute we can sort of soften around that and start to become open to the idea of, like you say, that someone, there's a real person who is being affected by my actions.
Or
Um,
animal or nature.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That my even this one tiny act of buying that £3 t-shirt or not, or having one egg or whatever it is, but if
Yeah.
everyone does it, then it just
Absolutely.
continues.
Um, I have a question regarding this because, of course, I had the same thoughts over and over in my life,
Mm.
and especially the last years. And I came to a point where if you follow like every decision until the end, somewhere there's always something that harms nature or people or whatever.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it got very difficult to live
Yeah,
without harming, like ahimsa,
sure.
because at some point there is someone who, even if you eat apples,
Yeah.
at the moment apples getting harvested and stored in refrigerators for the whole year, and the like whatever, like the energy amount and
Mhm.
so on is so high that you even do something bad with eating a local apple.
Sure.
So whereas I think we have to find a way that is like a transition period where
Yeah,
you allow yourself also to eat sometimes an apple or ice cream or something. But
absolutely. Because
so
I think, again, like, ahimsa is first and foremost to ourselves, but you recognize yourselves in everything around. Um,
yeah,
so, and I think it's quite important I think they talk about this in Ayurveda. The way that you accept what you eat is almost as important as what it is you're actually eating. So, because, if you're taking something, if you're eating something because you feel obliged to or you feel forced to or whatever, then that's also, there's an energy around that as well.
yeah, that's a nice
Um,
way of that. putting it. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, for example, my parents' friends, they made a cookie and it probably has dairy in it. I'm not going to say no to it because
Yeah.
they've made it and they're gifting it to me.
Yeah.
So that's something that, you just have to, like you say, you have to deal with. I think, um, and there is this balance. The whole world is based on um,
Balance.
a balance, but so creation, maintenance, and destruction. And destruction is key. We have to have the destruction, the death, the harming, you can say, in
Yeah.
order to rebirth again.
Yeah.
Um, it is a key part of it.
Yeah.
But I suppose yeah, it's that balance of doing our actions consciously
Yeah.
to, yeah, to not be part of the bigger issue. For example, like the thing with overfishing is because it's like multi-million dollar companies are
Mm.
doing it, which takes away the livelihoods from the local fishermen. I'm not
Mm.
saying that they need to be vegetarian or whatever, but
Yeah.
because
It's
that's their way of living on a small scale, and it's part of that particular
yeah.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um, and I live on the coast here. I personally do not want to eat an animal, but I'm not saying that no one should,
Yeah.
because it's part of the way that this part of the world works. So yeah, it does have to be an awareness of the cycle of life, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it is, I think there will always be that debate. Like you say, even an
Mm.
apple is gonna cause
So
some
what
difficulty.
we started, I also said in my last live, we started to just create some things by our own, which you normally buy. That was, for example, meditation pillows. And if the first question is, how can I do it by my own? Or
Yeah,
like the grandparents of Athena, like they harvest and they do all the food by themselves, as you did in India, maybe. And
yeah,
it's such a bless to get food from the grandparents' gardens or fields.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is so different when you eat them. You just value them so much more as
There's this
you
connect.
value a burger from McDonald's or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the things that you can make and the things that you can do. Um, I mean, in my completely idealistic world, like we would live in small communities. Um,
They say again?
we would live in small communities and grow
Yes.
food and share food, and
Yeah.
like someone is good at a specific skill and it's more based on trade again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this means that I wouldn't be able to travel to India, for example, like so.
Right.
How do
Yeah.
you how do you um
How do you?
balance that off your mind?
But
But I
is a
do think,
balance. Yeah.
yeah, I do
Sorry.
think that smaller communities than the big cities that we live in
Yeah.
is really part of it. And like you're saying, like that connection to something that, you know, it's life. It's life, you sow the seeds, you grow and you eat them. It's life. It's being part of that.
It is. Yeah. Let's have a view into the future. Are you afraid of what's coming up or what could come up, or are you looking into the future more positively? And what do you think will win, the good or the bad, or do you don't want to categorize?
Well, I've really been trying not to look into the future because I think that's what a lot of my anxiety was around was
Mm,
um, for myself, like for my personal situation, was around not being able to make plans, not knowing when I can do the thing that I want to do,
mm.
and so trying to be much more present. Looking
Cool.
into the future, though, on a
No,
bigger,
let's leave it. Let's leave it.
no,
Sorry,
like
I
I
didn't
feel
want to
like
break. Huh?
presence is definitely important, but I do feel like there is hope for humanity because there are more
Okay.
and more things being made, documentaries and things that are being highlighted about the way the world works and stuff. So
Mm,
I'm optimistic, but for me, I'm trying to stay in the present, not make plans.
perfect. Okay.
How's that?
That was good. Tell me, as a last one of the last questions, tell me one specific moment you loved in the past 12 months and one you really didn't like.
Ooh, okay. Um, okay, the first thing that springs to mind for a moment that I loved is teaching. Um,
Hmm.
so I haven't taught in over a year. It was over, I left Goa in March of last year, and that was the last time I taught. And then I, scarily put myself out there and did a little online lesson, and it was the best thing. Sharing, um,
Yeah,
being with other people, and uh, being present. Like you have to be present to teach, almost more so than my own
I,
practice. My own practice, I can, drift away, but to
yeah,
teach, oh, you have to be in the
yeah,
moment. Um,
present, yeah. I think that's your mantra at the moment.
for sure.
Being present.
For sure. Definitely. Yeah, and being in touch with, my body and who I am and where I am. And teaching is
Yeah,
definitely bringing that for me. A moment that I really didn't like. Okay, again, the first thing that springs to mind was leaving India. So even though it held so much anxiety for me being there, um,
crazy,
I was distraught to be leaving.
crazy.
Like, yeah, because I suppose I knew it was the end of a chapter, like
Mm.
when else are you going to live in a little Indian mountain village for
Mm,
4 months?
yeah, but you can probably go back and
I'm sure.
finish what you have started or what you have left.
Yeah, well, I still speak to the family. In fact, I was messaging the
Yeah.
mum just before we called.
Okay.
Um, and it's lovely. It's so lovely to have that connection. But yeah, that was a hard moment because for lots of reasons, but I felt I didn't want them to feel offended that I was leaving,
Mm,
and I knew that they were worried about me and that they had seen me so sad and anxious and upset and like it was
mm,
not a reflection on them at all, they were the best.
mm,
So leaving them was so hard. It was so
mhm,
hard.
mm.
But yeah,
Sometimes or often, I think we have to make decisions that are hard in order to make us change the situation somehow.
absolutely. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. Again, it's that like, destruction of something to get the
yeah,
new again. It's that cycle. We have to have
part
that
of
that
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Kali, just
And
I
yes,
remember. Mm,
Ali, she's pretty hardcore.
yeah, it is.
But
But without her, nothing would exist.
exactly. And I mean this is Shiva as well. Shiva is destruction. Um,
Mm,
the big god himself is destruction, but
yeah.
it's getting rid of all that doesn't serve. And
Mm,
even though bits that do serve, the family were beautiful, the place was beautiful, but
mm,
I wasn't serving myself.
yeah.
Uh,
And you, at the same time, you learned a lot.
oh my gosh, so much, but more so in hindsight. At the time you can't see it. You can't see it. You're just like, I'm so miserable.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
But no, in hindsight, like you can really see, yeah, the beauty of it and the beauty of living like that as well. Again, like there were so many lessons that I learned about who I want to be as a person from living there.
Mm,
And even though I couldn't communicate myself very well, I made one
mm.
joke. I was so proud. I made one Indian joke, Hindi.
Which one?
Um, Well, you know our friend Ilu, our good friend
Yeah.
Ilu.
Yeah.
So at the time, he wasn't sleeping at nighttime very well. He would stay up all night. And I said that it sounds like he's more Ulu than Ilu because Ulu means owl. And I was so proud of myself that I could make this joke. And I was like, oh, that's how cool I
Okay.
am. Anyway,
Sally, I think I could continue talking hours with you, and I
I think we
hope
should.
I hope that we find each other face to face at some
Yeah.
point
Oh, for
again.
sure. Visiting.
Yeah,
Absolutely. The plans that I
you.
am making is that at some point I will visit everyone.
Yes, please. You're warmly welcome.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
Okay. Then I wish you a good weekend, and thank you very much for this nice exchange.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe I catch up in a few weeks again, and we just make a second talk, or
Good.
and see how things
Nice idea.
change from now to
Yeah.
then,
Wow.
and if you're still in the present moment.
If I'm still smiling. I
Yeah, so small.
think so. Yeah, that would be
I
beautiful.
think so too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.